Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. My guest of the night covers horse racing for Horse Racing Nation and the Daily Gallop. This podcast will be talking about a little World Series, a little basketball, a little football, and most importantly, the Breeders' Cup, which is both Friday and Saturday. Jeffrey Byrnes, how are you doing tonight?
Madison, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. All right, let's talk about the World Series. Game 7's tonight. The Astros and the Nationals. Zach Greinke and Max Scherzer. This is just as good as it gets. And what are your thoughts on the series so far?
This has been definitely one of the most strangest and probably one of the craziest World Series I personally have ever seen. Just through 6 games, the away team has won all the games. I think it's the first time in not just baseball history, but I think sports history where in a championship series that the away team has won the first 6 games of the series, which is something definitely you never see before. But you've had some surprise hitters. You've had some pitch performances that you didn't expect to see. Juan Soto has been great for the Nationals. Jose Altuve, George Springer, they've been great. Ryan Zimmerman has some good at bats as well. But probably the biggest surprise has been Justin Verlander has not been great at all this World Series. He's thrown, game 2 and recently game 6. He's not really looked particularly all that great. And now his World Series record, I believe, is 0-6, which is one of the worst in baseball history. But overall, it's been a really crazy World Series, and I'm expecting a really exciting finish into it tonight.
Yeah, it should be great. I am very looking forward to tonight. I believe you'll see Garrett Cole of the bullpen, Jose Urquidy out of the bullpen, and from a national side, Patrick Corbin and Anibal Sanchez. I doubt we see Strasburg, although Michael Kay, I believe, predicted on his show today that we will see Strasburg, but I disagree with him on that one. I think we definitely see Cole. Buster only said on the Kay show today that he'd be shocked if Cole did not pitch today. So many fascinating storylines in this game tonight. Who's your MVP through the first 6 games of the series?
Well, for the Astros, on the Astros side, you could definitely say it's George Springer. He's had a very good World Series. Also, kind of a surprise, Robinson Chirinos has had a lot of really big hits this series. Hit a couple of home runs while the series was in Washington. He really kept them in the series, but it would be those are my 2 for the Nationals. But Juan Soto has for what he's doing right now in this World Series, it looks like. He just turned 21 last week, but he looks like he's been doing this for years. And he's definitely my MVP on the national side. Couple of home runs, couple of big hits, some nice plays in the field. So those are my MVPs.
Yeah, I would say even Strasburg and Cole for each of their respective teams as well, pitching some big innings for them. Granted, Cole was not very good in game number, was it 1 or 2 where he self-combusted?
Game
1.
2 he started. Was it game 1? Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
It was game 1 because he would have won game 7 if the Yankees forced a game 7. But yeah, Game Cole was not very good in game 1, but the way he pitched in game 5 really opened up some eyes, and the possibility of him tonight coming out of the bullpen and perhaps saving them is intriguing to me. Like Nathan Eovaldi in the World Series, although Eovaldi didn't win the World Series MVP last year. So I guess I would not really put Cole in that conversation, but he's had some big innings for the Astros, obviously, and Strasburg last night was just sensational after a slow start. So I had to mention those 2 guys in there. I'm interested to see how Scherzer comes out because he obviously was scratched in Game 5 because of the injury, but he's good to go tonight. I do not expect to see him out there that long. I think he's only going to be there for 4 or 5 innings. Then comes in Anibal Sanchez and Patrick Corbin in their duet of Daniel Hudson and the closer, Sean Doolittle. Would it surprise you if Scherzer went more than 5?
I would be surprised unless he's in a complete groove and he's in cool. He's cool, calm, collected. Unless he's cruising through the lineup, I'd be very surprised if he goes past 5 innings. Obviously, I don't know if he's going to be 100% because of the neck issue he's been dealing with. That's why he was scratched in Game 5. But, as you said, like Anibal Sanchez, Patrick Corbin, they're all ready to go. They'll be fresh. The bullpen's ready. Doolittle will be ready. But, Yeah, I'll be a little surprised if he's past 5 innings tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it's because of the injury, not necessarily because of like ineffectiveness or anything like that. But you never know with these types of games. Before we move on, who is your pick to be your 2019 World Series champion as it all ends tonight?
I'm going to go with the Nationals. I think Nationals will win tonight because Zach Greinke, even though he's pitched all right, he hasn't pitched great in this, not just this World Series, but really in the postseason in general. And I'm a little worried about him. This is like throughout his career, this might be the most important start of Zach Greinke's career if we really come to think about it. And I don't know if the way he's been pitching, he's going to be living up to that hype. And if he can't go past 4 innings, I think the Astros will be in trouble tonight. So he needs to be at the top of his game. But I just think Max Scherzer, if he goes out there and he's throwing his fastball, his curveball all right, I think the Nationals are going to be in good shape.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the Nats tonight. I bet on them, and it's funny because I have a Astros plus 450 ticket from back in April when they had good value on them to win the World Series. It was when the Mariners were 13-2, and the Astros were like mediocre-ish for them, like 9-6 or something like that. And my friend and I split a bet with the plus 450. He gave me money, and we placed a bet on DraftKings for it. So I have that, and then I hedged and took the Nationals on FanDuel. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be the Nats because of Scherzer, regardless of injury or not, because they have Corbin and they have Sanchez to back them up. I do not trust Corbin, but I do not trust Greinke either. So I do not feel good about picking the Nationals, but it just feels like they're here. They feel like the team of destiny. So I'm going to agree with you and go with the Nationals, although I would not be surprised at all if Houston finds a way to win tonight, regardless of how Zach Greinke pitches. And World Series MVP, I'm going to say if Washington wins, I'm going to say Anthony Rendon wins the series MVP. And then for Houston, I'm going to say it's Bregman. Who do you think the MVPs will win if each team actually wins?
If it's the Nationals, I'm going to say it's Juan Soto. And if it's for the Astros, I'm going to say it's Alex Correa.
Carlos Correa, that's interesting. I wonder what the odds are for Robinson Chirinos for the World Series MVP, because you mentioned that he got a couple big hits. I want to place a wager on that before the game. I'm just so tempted to do it, but
I don't think anybody was expecting Robinson Chirinos to be a huge contributor to the series with his bat, but he certainly has, at least when the series shifted to Washington.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so funny that he's a dark horse to win the World Series MVP. All right, let's switch over to the NFL. We're at the halfway point. We're just going to do a couple quick things here. Your most surprising team so far?
Probably the 49ers. This is the team who last year was selecting Nick Bosa number 2 overall, and that 49ers defense has been. Everybody keeps talking about the Patriots defense and how great their defense has been, but this 49ers defense has been right with them every step of the way. Nick Bosa, the way he's played the first 8 weeks of the season, I mean, he's clearly the front runner for not only for defensive rookie of the year, but if he's not careful, he's going to put himself in the conversation, I think, for defensive player of the year. That's how great he's been playing. He has the last week against the Panthers, he had a monstrous game, had an interception, a couple sacks, a couple forced fumbles. He's a really special player, and it really has developed into a leader of that defense. Coleman, for the running back for the 49ers, had a monstrous game. The 49ers are a team all around. Jimmy G has a little bit of questions, but he's doing just enough at the quarterback position. But the 49ers at 7-0, considering how they've been the last 2 years, I don't think a lot of people saw that coming.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's my surprise team as well. I thought that this team was going to be a sub-500 team this year, and I couldn't have been more wrong about that. Who is your most disappointing team so far?
Definitely the Cleveland Browns. This is a team who I believe after the Patriots loss is now 2-5 on the season, and Baker Mayfield has just not looked right. He's thrown, I think, the most interceptions in all of the NFL. I mean, he's not hitting open receivers. I mean, you're seeing a little bit of tension between him and head coach Freddie Kitchens, who himself is now in the hot seat, it looks like, as well, after just 1 year. But, considering all the moves they made in the offseason, trading for Odell, Olivier Vernon, Kareem Hunt, I mean, who hasn't even played yet this year because of suspension, but he should be back soon. But considering all the moves they made, Cleveland should not be 2-5 right now. They should be much better than that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So if we agree on the both surprise and disappointments, but I'll just give out a surprise and disappointments from the opposite conferences of the teams we think. So surprise of the AFC, I'm going to say the Ravens. I just really am surprised that Lamar took this breakout in year 2. I thought year 3 was going to be the breakout year for Lamar Jackson, but it's been year 2. I know you and our friend Doug Sarava were both high on the Ravens this year, and I was not, so I have to give you guys some credit about that. And in terms of a flop team in the NFC, tough one. I'm going to say the Falcons. I thought they were going to be a plus 500 team, but I'm not sure if they would have been a playoff team because I thought that going into the season that the NFC was going to be very good, which it has been, but some teams like the 49ers have surprised and teams like Atlanta have disappointed. So I am very surprised and disappointed in the Falcons and them being 1-6. What do you make of those surprise and disappointment teams?
Yeah, Ravens, honestly, I'm not surprised. Like, I just, from what I saw from Lamar Jackson, I mean, he showed that he could be a very capable quarterback, both as a runner and as a thrower. I mean, they added some pieces. Obviously, Mark Ingram has been a big help as well in the running back field. Even though they lost C.J. Mosley on defense, that defense is still holding up strong. John Harbaugh has really done a good job, with his coaching schemes and the people are putting in the good people around him. So I'm not surprised at all, really, that the Ravens are in the position they are right now. I would think maybe it's surprising how big their lead in the division is. That's what I would probably say the surprise is. But I'm not surprised they're performing well. And I definitely agree with you on the Falcons. The fact they only have 1 win this year is a giant disappointment. I mean, it seems like Matt Ryan's hurt, and it seems like there's been Matt Bryant, the kicker, just got released. He had some big misses. They could definitely easily have like 3-4 wins by now, but either way, it's been a very disappointing year for Atlanta. And when it comes to the end of the year, I won't be surprised if head coach Dan Quinn is let go because of his job performance.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. Your MVP through the first half of the season.
MVP right now, I would say Russell Wilson, quarterback for Seattle. I mean, the numbers he's put up has been outstanding. I mean, it seems like year in, year out, he has been one of the top quarterbacks in the league for a system that, like, Pete Carroll has really demonstrated he wants to run the ball more, but it seems like every time Russell Wilson gets the ball in his hands, he always places it with accuracy. They score a lot of points every single week, and he does a lot of great things when the football gets in his hands. So he's my pick for MVP right now.
My MVP pick, although I agree with you about Wilson and he's going to be a candidate, I cannot ignore Aaron Rodgers and his rejuvenation with the Packers. He's just been amazing, and I think he'll ultimately win the award as long as Green Bay wins its division. What do you make of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers so far this year?
Honestly, I picked them. I came on your podcast a little while ago, and I picked Green Bay to pay. I believe picked them to be a wild card this year, but they're I believe they're 7-1 right now. They got to pick the facing Chargers on Sunday, but yeah, Aaron Rodgers seems to be back in peak MVP form. He has really been outstanding this year. Despite Devontae Adams going down, a couple wide receivers going down, he seems like he always finds like anybody that's just open and makes these ridiculous throws. He just seems like the older he gets, it seems like the better he gets. So I definitely put Aaron Rodgers in that conversation too. Also, one more name I want to add is maybe they'll surprise you. I say Christian McCaffrey of the Panthers. I think he could be a dark horse for MVP as well. He's definitely been lining it up. He scored many touchdowns this year, bunch of running yards, and so I think McCaffrey would definitely be in there too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of McCaffrey's. I believe that was your preseason pick to win the award, if I'm not mistaken. He's a very special talent. I will not be surprised if he is in the top 5 or even the top 10 for the MVP award when it's all said and done, because I think the Panthers are a good football team. NBA storylines before we get to the Breeders. Kyrie Irving made some news the other day. Jackie McMullen wrote this story about Kyrie Irving. Obviously, Jackie used to or still involved with the Boston area, covered the Celtics. Kyrie obviously went from the Celtics to the Nets. What do you make of that story going on with Kyrie Irving that Jackie McMullen wrote?
I did read it, and obviously look at the state of the Nets right now. I mean, they're 1-2. They could easily be obviously 0-3 right now if you really think about it. But I think that they'll be fine. I mean, right now he's just getting used to his new surroundings, new teammates. Obviously, I think the Nets coaching staff and what they've built over there, I think they'll do a fine job with handling his situation. But I think it's early in the season. I think everything will be all right.
Yeah, you just said the Nets could easily be 0-3. They could easily be 3-0 as well if you think about it. Because if Kyrie Irving hits that shot against the Timberwolves and the Jay Crowder shot does not go down against the Grizzlies, you guys are 2-0, and you guys could easily be 0-3 because the Knicks came back against you guys, and the Knicks took the lead, and then Kyrie was just so big for you guys down the stretch. So you could easily be 3-0, and you could easily be 0-3. I think the Nets will be fine as well. A team that's been an early disappointment, in my opinion, has been the Golden State Warriors. I know it's mainly because of injury losses and free agent losses. Do you believe that this team is actually going to miss the postseason, or do you think that they'll get it together eventually?
Well, right now they're not looking so great, but I think they'll right the ship eventually. I mean, that team, despite losing Kevin Durant, despite losing Klay Thompson injury, I think they're still way too talented to miss the postseason. Steph Curry is still in peak form. As long as Draymond Green's in the game, everything will be fine. And D'Angelo Russell, he hasn't really made that big impact yet, but I think as the season goes on, they'll just keep building that chemistry between each other. Steve Kerr has developed a good game plan for them, so I think Golden State will be all right. But the loss to Oklahoma City the other night, I think, was a big concern that really surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, and I believe I bet on Oklahoma City in that game as well. I know I went against them against the Clippers on that Thursday night, and the Clippers won big. And then I bet on New Orleans the other night against them too. But then minutes later, it's announced Drew Holiday's hurt, and I'm like, shit. And then Golden State goes and blows them out. So Golden State rid off the ship a little bit with that win in New Orleans the other day, although New Orleans has a lot of injuries of their own. One last NBA story. Are you surprised with the leap that Pascal Siakam's made to start the season for the Raptors? He's thrown his name into the dark horse MVP candidates, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He's done a really good job up at Toronto. They've developed it for the last few years, and he's really turned into really a superstar up there. I mean, last year when he was with Kawhi Leonard, he made a lot of big plays, but now that Kawhi's gone there, other than Kyle Lowry, they need a big team leader, and he certainly has stepped up in a way. He just got a contract extension, I believe, this past offseason, so I think that's going to motivate him even more. So Siakam has done a really fine job so far for Toronto, and I think as the season goes on and continues to play right now, he'll definitely be in that conversation.
Yeah, he should be, and I think picked him to be an all-star before the season when I did my NBA preseason predictions podcast. All right, Breeders' Cup, this is your thing. This is your favorite time of the year, horse racing, the fall, and this is their main event when it comes to fall events. I wrote down the races, and I'm going to ask you for a win, place, and show, and a possible dark horse that can win each race. Let's start with the Juvenile Turf Sprint. That's the first race that's going off on Friday afternoon. It's 1:12 Pacific time, 4:12 our time. Who do you like to finish in the top three, and then who's a dark horse you can see winning that race? Or coming close.
Okay. For my win, I'm going to go with, first off, it's a 12-horse field, 5-furlong sprints, and I'm going to go with the 9-horse four-wheel drive. This is a horse who is a 2-year-old colt. He's by a Triple Crown winner, American Pharoah. Of course, this is his first crop is racing this year, and they've really been running off the screens, American Pharoah's progeny. And four-wheel drive, this is a horse who is 2 for 2 in his career. Both wins have come at the 5.5 furlong and 6 furlong distance. He actually shortens up to 5 furlongs, but it's actually the shortest of his career. But this is a horse who has good speed and quick acceleration turning for home. He's looked really good in the mornings. He gets trainer Wesley Ward. This is the first of his 3 entrants in here. And four-wheel drive definitely is a horse who, if you look at his pedigree, sprinting actually might be short for him. I think as a 3-year-old, he'll stretch out a little more. But four-wheel drive will be my pick to win. In second place, I'm going to go with another Wesley Ward horse. His name is Kamari. Kamari is a 2-year-old filly who actually has won a couple stakes races in her career. She's 3 for 4 in her career. She won a couple stakes races up at Saratoga in New York and at Keeneland in the fall in Kentucky. This is a filly who actually traveled overseas to England and was second in a race called the Queen Mary Stakes at the prestigious Royal Ascot meet, which is one of the most prestigious meets in the world. Very rarely for a 2-year-old filly to travel over there, perform well, come back to the U.S., and perform even better. I think this is a filly who did definitely relish the distance and definitely improve with a good speed duel. And in third place, I'm going to go with the horse number 5 named Encoder. Encoder, this is a 2-year-old. It's a 2-year-old colt by an English channel. This is a horse who definitely should like the shortening up in distance. He was running 2 turns for the first 3 starts of his career. He shortens up, and with his speed, I think he can definitely hang around towards the end. He's got good connections. Jockey Flavian Pratt has been a leading rider at Santa Anita, knows the turf course very well. So it'll be 9, 7, 5 would be my order in the juvenile turf sprint.
Alrighty, and is there a long shot that you think can spoil it potentially?
A long shot I like is the 12 horse named Cambiria. This is the third of the Wesley War horses. Cambiria is a filly running against the boys. 3 for 3 in her career. She just won a race at Kentucky Downs, an all-turf race course, the turf sprint. She's 12 to 1 on the morning line. She has great speed and can definitely go a long way. I like it. I actually do like her post. I think she can get away quick from the far outside. If she can hang around, I think she'll be tough at the end.
Yeah. Let's go to the second race. The juvenile turf. The sponsored one. The America sponsored one. That's right shy of 5:00 our time. Win, place, and show. Who do you like?
For win, I like the number 4 horse, Decorated Invader. This is a horse who won his first start of his career up at Saratoga. He's 2 for 3 in his career. He actually won a stakes race up in Canada called the Summer Stakes. He won that by open length, and he's been training phenomenal in the mornings. His trainer, Christophe Clement, has a good record shipping out to California, and he's going to get he's get a good pace in front of him. Should definitely relish the 1 mile distance. So I like him for my win. For my second place, I like number 2 horse named Structure. Structure, this is a colt by Palace Malice. Palace Malice was actually a Belmont Stakes winner on the dirt, but this horse actually has done his best running on the turf. He won a 2-turn race called the Pilgrim Stakes at Belmont Park, and ran that race going away. And from the inside post, you get a ground-saving trip, and with jockey Jose Ortiz, trainer Chad Brown, the 2 of the best combinations in the country. So I like him to finish in second. And for my third place, I like the number 12 horse, Arizona. This is a horse coming over from England for trainer Aidan O'Brien. This is a horse who actually has a couple runner-up finishes in some Group 1 races over there in Europe. And I think this will actually be a step down in competition for him. So while I think the post could actually hurt him because of a wide trip around the turn, he definitely has the class that could get it done. So I do like him to finish third. He could also easily win this race as well.
Okay, let's move on to the juvenile fills. The first one, that's right after 5:30 our time. Who do you like? Win, place, show.
This is the juvenile fillies, right?
Yes, the first one.
Okay. So the juvenile fillies, this is a race that actually I consider wide open. The morning line favorite is a filly on the inside named Donna Veloci, who actually only has 1 career start and one win, but she won that race going away. But I don't know if step up in competition is going to help her. So I'm going to go with number 4 horse, British Idiom. This is a filly who has already won at 2 turns. She's 2 for 2 in her career. She won the Grade 1 Alcibiades at Keeneland, won that race going away, and really has worked very well in the mornings. The clockers over at Santa Anita have said that she's really been standing out in the mornings, training very well. So I like her number 4 horse. And second, I like the number 5, Lazy Daisy, for trainer Doug O'Neill. This is a filly who has also won at 2 turns. She's California-based, but shipped out to Churchill Downs and won her 2-turn debut in the Grade 2 Pocahontas Stakes. She is coming off a very fast workout at Santa Anita, and she's another filly who's been doing really well in the mornings. She likes Santa Anita as well. And in third place, I like the. Actually, I'm going to go. I'll go with number 1, Donna Veloci. She won her only race at Santa Anita. She won that race going away and was very impressive. She's coming up back-to-back bullet workouts, going 5 furlongs, and she'll have to work out a good trip from the inside. But if she's talented enough, she could do it.
All right. How about the second juvenile fills, the turf race?
The Juvenile Phillies turf. This actually was a pretty tough race to look at. It's very wide open. The morning line favorite actually is at 9-2, so really wide open. But I like the number 7 horse, Chris Sally. This is a filly who, just like I said earlier, it's like Palace Malice. This is a filly who actually broke her maiden in a stakes race at Saratoga, going 2 turns. She was beaten by a little more than a neck in the Miss Gorilla Stakes at Belmont Park after a wide trip. She came into this race in very good form. Gets a good jockey in Joel Rosario. So 8-1 on the morning line. That's a good price for her. I like that play. In second place, I like the number 12, Sweet Melania. This is the filly by American Pharaoh, who is coming off of a dominating victory in the Jessamine Stakes at Keeneland, going 2 turns. She's been working well in the morning. She shipped to Santa Anita just last week, and clockers have been really impressed with the way she's been training. So I think the 12 post could really be an issue, but I think she'll be just fine from out there. And in third place, I like the number 9 horse, a filly coming over from England named it's a pretty hard enough to name. It's Albigna, I believe is how I pronounce it. I don't know, I could be wrong, but she's coming over from France, and this is the number 9 horse, and she's 3 for 4 in her career. She won a Group 1 in France. She gets firmer ground than what she's been getting over there, and I think she'll work out a good trip and such.
Alrighty, last one for Friday night. It's a 7:03 Eastern Time post. How about the TVG Juvenile?
Well, this was a race that really was. There was like a big 3 in this race, but one of them is now scratched. The number 9 horse in the field, Maxfield, was announced as a late scratch on Tuesday because of a foot bruise. So it's actually a big loss. He was one of the favorites for the race. So now I think this race becomes a little bit easier, I would think, to predict. But the inside horse, Dennis's Moment, I think would be my top pick. Despite the one rail, his 2 wins have been arguably the most impressive of any 2-year-old this year. He broke his maiden by 17 lengths at Ellis Park in Kentucky and nearly set a track record for the 7-furlong distance. It is very rare for a 2-year-old to almost set a track record for his first career win. So, and then he won his stakes debut in the Iroquois Stakes, eased up under the wire. Very impressive, in the mornings, and very impressive all around. So he'll be my top pick. My second place horse is going to be the 5 horse Scabbard, who was actually second behind Dennis's Moment in the Iroquois. He has a couple runner-up finishes in his career, but he's been training well in the mornings. He's been very consistent, and I think 2 turns will be definitely appreciated for him. And in third, I like the number 6 horse in here, 8 Rings, for trainer Bob Baffert. This is the horse who actually won the local prep, the American Pharaoh Stakes, and he won that race going away. But you get the middle post, 6 post, so I think he'll definitely be on the pace. With a good trip, he'll be all right.
So what was that again? What, 5 and 6?
It's 1, 5, 6. Yeah.
1, 5, 6. Okay, I just missed the number of the horse's number there. Now we move on to Saturday. The first race is the Filly and More Sprint. Who do you like there?
Well, this is a race that definitely has seen its share of long shots over the last few years, and I'm actually going to go with a long shot on this race. My top pick is going to be number 8, Dawn the Destroyer, at 12-1 on the morning line. This is a filly who actually has 1 win this year, and it came at a stakes race all the way back in January. But she actually has never finished worse than 4th this year. She had a couple of consistent runs, but I think there's going to be a huge pace in this race, and I think it's setting up for a deep closer to come from the back. So I think Dawn the Destroyer, she's been training well in the morning. She gets a new rider in Tyler Gaffalione, who's an up-and-coming rider. Kieran McLaughlin knows his trainer, knows how to win races at big races at Santa Anita. So I actually like Dawn the Destroyer, a long shot in here at 12-1. My second place horse will be number 9, Spice Perfection. Just like Dawn the Destroyer, she's also a deep closer. She's coming off a win in the TCA Stakes over at Keeneland. That's a race where she actually closed into a pace meltdown and actually just outran Dawn the Destroyer. But I think the tables will turn in that spot. So Dawn is Spike Perfection will be my second place horse. And finishing in third, I like number 4, Come Dancing. This is a filly who's been very consistent throughout her career, especially this year. She's 4 for 5. She has a couple Grade 1 wins. She's coming off a victory in the Gallant Balloon Handicap at Belmont. Very easy win. She's been training well in the mornings. She'll be up and on the pace. If she can hang around, I think she'll also have a good chance as well.
Let's go to the turf sprint now. That's the second race of Saturday. 3:33 Eastern Time, 12:33 Pacific Time. Who do you like there?
This is a race. It's 5 furlong sprint. I like the number 2 horse in here, Pure Sensation. This is a horse who was making his 4th attempt to win this race. He's competed in this race in 2015, 2016, and 2017. And I think 4th time actually will be the charm. So he's coming. He has a good inside post. He's going to get a good pace in front of him. He's still running well at the age of 8. And, he's got a good jockey in Paco Lopez, who's going to be, he's going to have to get on the clear if he's going to close into a fast pace. But I think he'll definitely be there at the end. My second place horse will be the number 9, Final Frontier, for trainer Tom Albertrani. He's coming off of a win in the Belmont Turf Sprint Invitational. Actually, he outran Pure Sensation, but I don't like the post for him from the far outside compared to Pure Sensation, who's going to break from post number 2. So Final Frontier, he's 2 for 4 this year, to 2 wins, a second and a third. So he's been consistent. He's always been right there, and I think with a good pace, he'll definitely be flying late. And for my third place horse, I'm going to go with the number 6, Stormy Liberal. Stormy Liberal is actually the 2-time defending champion of this race. He actually has not won a race this year, but he has definitely been very consistent, and he loves the Santa Anita turf course. Ran into some trouble in his last race, the Eddie D Stakes, but if he can get a clean trip and an outside run, I think he'll be there running at the end. Okay,
let's go to this is my favorite title of the 14 races. I know you already know where I'm going. The Big Ass Fans Dirt Mile. Who's your pick for this one?
First off, love the sponsor name. That's just fantastic. But this is another race that it seems to be wide open. It marks the return of Omaha Beach, who you may or may not remember was the morning line favorite for the Kentucky Derby earlier this year and had to scratch out of the race. He actually came back here and actually won a race to prep for the Dirt Mile. But he's not going to be my top choice. My top choice is going to be number 4, Mr. Money. Mr. Money has won a bunch of races this year, including 4 of his last 5. He was on a 4-race win streak, and he just got nipped at the wire in the Pennsylvania Derby, going a race that maybe a little bit has been far for him, but now he shortens back up to the 1-mile distance, a distance I think he's absolutely going to love. He should get a good trip from the 4 posts. I think he's going to get a clean trip as well. So I think he'll be my top choice. Omaha Beach, the 5 horse, will be my second choice. He's 8-5 on the morning line. He's definitely the favorite. Obviously, his return race was at 6 furlongs in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. He was absolutely sensational on that day. Looked fantastic for his first race in 6 months. The 5 post, the 1-mile distance should be right up his alley. The question is he going to be the second time off the layoff? Is he going to move forward from that race, or is he just going to take a step back? So that's my biggest concern with him. But he'll definitely be my second choice. And as far as the third place horse, I'm going to go with the number 9, Diamond Oops. This is a horse who actually prepped for this race on turf. He was actually second in the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile at Keeneland. This is a horse who has run 6 furlongs on dirt, 1 mile on turf, 1 mile on dirt. He can basically do it all. And I think 15-1 on the morning line is his price, and I think that is definitely a good price to play. So from the 9 post, he'll definitely be up there on the pace, and I think he'll get a good trip.
Who was your place again from the number?
Number 5, Omaha Beach.
5. Okay, that was the horse that had to scratch the Kentucky Derby. The Maker's Mark, Filly, and Mare race, the turf. Who do you like there?
This is another field that really was affected when a filly named Magical for trainer Aiden O'Brien was supposed to come over from Europe, but she unfortunately got sick, and now she's not in this race anymore. So definitely leaves the field a little bit wide open. But I'm going to go with the number 9 horse, Villa Marnia. She's actually coming over from France. And this is a filly who is 3 for 8 in her career. All the 8 races have come this year. She's coming off of a victory at Longchamp in France and the Prix de l'Opera Stakes, in which she actually beat a couple of fillies that are running in this race on Saturday. And she's a filly who's going to definitely get firmer ground. She'll get a good outside trip. Her jockey, Olivier Pellier, has won multiple Breeders' Cup races at Santa Anita, so he knows the turf course very well. I think 8-1 is a very generous price for her. Definitely worth playing. For my second choice, I like the number 2, Sister Charlie. She's actually the 8-5 morning line favorite. This is a filly who's definitely definitely the class of the field. She's won 7 races in a row, dating back to June 2018. She's the defending winner of this race. She's 3 for 3 this year, all Grade 1 wins. Her trainer, Chad Brown, has won this race multiple times. The question is she going to work out a good trip from the inside? There's definitely speed to her outside, so it'll be very interesting to see what kind of trip she gets. If she wins this race, she'll definitely be because of talent. And for my third place horse, I like the number 12, Fanny Logan, on the far outside at 15-1 for trainer John Gosden. She's coming over from Europe. She actually has won 5 races this year, including 4 races in a row. She gets jockey Frankie Dettori, one of the winningest jockeys in Breeders' Cup history. It's a 12 post, but I think they'll definitely work out a good trip. She definitely is very talented filly, definitely one of the biggest names in the field, so she'll definitely be my third place horse.
All right, let's go to the sprint race. Who do you like there?
This will be a very fast, very, very fast pace. And the number 8 horse, Landeskog, actually is scratched from this race because of a foot bruise. Actually, fun fact, that horse is actually owned by Eric Johnson of the Colorado Avalanche. But
Go figure.
Unfortunately, he's not going to be running. Yeah.
Because Gabriel Landeskog.
Yeah, he's unfortunately not going to be running in that race. But the favorite in the race is Matoli, the 4 horse, at 9-5. Won a couple of big races this year, but my top choice is going to be number 6, Chancelot. Chancelot at 4-1. This is the horse who was actually second behind Omaha Beach in the Grade 1 Santa Anita Sprint Championship. He's been at Santa Anita for well over a month now. He's been training over the track very well. He gets a new rider, Jose Ortiz, who knows the thing about winning Grade 1 races, and he actually gets lightweight because he's a 3-year-old facing older horses, and he could definitely go along. You know, it's a 6-furlong sprint, and they're going to be going fast, but he's definitely a fast horse. He'll definitely be my top pick. Number 2 horse, I can see a deep closer coming from the back, and that's going to be number 3, Firenze Fire. Firenze Fire has 1 win this year from 6 starts, but he's placed at a couple Grade 1 races, and he's won a distance longer than 6 furlongs. He actually was in the Kentucky Derby a year ago, but this is a horse who very talented. He's been training great coming into this race. He can ship well. If there's a pace meltdown, he'll be flying late. As will be my third place horse, number 2, Hog Creek Hustle, who's another 3-year-old in this race. He's the longest shot. He's one of the longest shots in the field at 20-1 on the morning line. He won the Woody Stevens on Belmont Stakes Day. Has a couple second-place finishes. I think with a good trip from the inside and with a very fast pace, he'll definitely be coming late.
Let's move on to the TVG Mile race. This one's going off at 6:20 our time. Who do you like in that one?
This race is definitely wide open. There's 14 horses in here. There's a couple of fillies in here as well. But my top pick, I would say, is number 11, Uni. Uni, this is the filly who actually her last race was a win in the Grade 1 First Lady at Keeneland, and that was actually a prep race for the for the filly and mare Turf. But she opted to go for the Breeders' Cup Mile and take on the boys instead. So that's a big confidence booster for her. This is a filly who has been primarily very consistent throughout her career. 9 for 17 lifetime. Trainer Chad Brown, who knows a thing or two about winning the Breeders' Cup Mile. So, despite her post from the 11 outside, I think she'll definitely be in with a good chance to win. My second place horse, I like number, excuse me, I like number 12, Lord Glitters. Lord Glitters, this is the horse who actually won the prestigious Queen Anne Stakes at the Royal Ascot earlier this year over in England. He hasn't run well lately, but I think the trip over to the United States, I think with the outside post, I think with the new surroundings, I think he's actually going to run very well in this race. I could surprise. You know, he's 12 to 1 on the morning line. I like that price a lot. And my third place horse is number 9, Circus Maximus, for trainer Aidan O'Brien. He's coming off of a win over at Longchamp at a Group 1 in France. Been very consistent throughout his career. You know, the 1 mile distance, Aidan O'Brien seems to figure that's his best distance. He's figured his horse out very well. So it would be 11, 12, 9 in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
All right, 3 more to go. The Longines Distaff, that's at 7 o'clock our time. Who do you like there?
This is a big field, 11-horse field, but I think there's a clear standout. I think Midnight Bisou, the number 4 horse in this field, is just too strong for them. I know anything can happen in the race, but this is the filly who is above everybody. I think actually has beaten almost every single horse in this field, like once in her career. She's 7 for 7 this year alone. She has 3 Grade 1 wins. She's 12 of 18 lifetime. And of those 18 starts, 12 wins, 3 seconds, 3 thirds. Never worse than third in her career. She's won 3 stakes races at Santa Anita. Trainer Steve Asmussen has done a great job with her since coming over to his barn. And Mike Smith, obviously, he's I believe the winningest rider in Breeders' Cup history. And so I think Midnight Bisou just stands up above everybody else in that field. In my view, that's the biggest shocker of the day would be if Midnight Bisou loses. In second place, I like the number 1, Paradise Woods. Paradise Woods is a filly who really has been hot and cold in her career, but she's actually coming off of a win in the Grade 2 Zenyatta Stakes, which is the local prep at Santa Anita. Now, this is the filly who it seemed like just a little while ago, like the owners were thinking about calling it a career because she wasn't really running that great. But then, arguably, in the Zenyatta, she ran one of the best performances of her career. So now she's back in the game. She's training very well. I think she'll definitely come in second. Another horse, the third place horse I like is number 5, Dunbar Road. 6 to 1 on the morning line. 3-year-old filly trained by Chad Brown. She's a filly who has a win in the Grade 1 Alabama Stakes at Saratoga. She's coming off of a somewhat tough run in the Spinster Stakes against older horses, but she gets a good post today. She's been training well. I think she'll rebound. So 4-1-5, in my view, in the Breeders' Cup Distaff.
All right, let's go to the Longines Turf. That's the second to last race, 7:40 East Coast time. Who do you like in that one?
This has been probably one of the toughest races to handicap because there are just so many horses coming over from Europe that have a good chance of winning. But at the end, I'm gonna select a long shot here. I'm gonna go with number 4, Mount Everest, for trainer Aidan O'Brien. This is the first of 2 in here for Aidan O'Brien. Now this is a horse who has been kind of been struggling over in Europe, and then Aidan O'Brien put blinkers on him in his last start and actually ran really well and actually won a stakes race. He brings him over here to the U.S. He's 15 to 1 on the morning line, but I think he's a horse who definitely can handle the 1.5 mile distance. He could be on the lead. If he can go a slow pace, he could settle the pace and slow it to a crawl. Another horse, the second place horse I like in here is number 10, Old Parisian, for Godolphin and trainer Charlie Appleby. This is a horse who's coming off of a win in the Grade 1 Northern Dancer Turf Stakes at Woodbine, where he was just settled off the pace and then won the race going away. He won some Grade 1 races over in Dubai and in Europe earlier this year, so he's definitely one of the top horses. And my third place horse, actually, is going to be number 11, Artflow, for trainer Brad Cox. 12 to 1 on the morning line. This is a horse who has been battling this year, has never finished worse than third. His only run off the board this year was when he lost the rider at the start at Keeneland. But he's coming off of winning the Grade 1 Joe Hurst Turf Classic at Belmont. Training great. He gets an outside post. He's going to be far back, but his closing kick is definitely strong enough to where I think he'll be there at the end.
All right, and last but not least, the Long Guys Classic, 8:44 on the big NBC, Channel 4. This is the big one. The big NBC's airing it. Who do you like here?
This is a race that definitely is a lot wide open in more recent years. There's no clear standout, but at the end, after looking hard, I went with the number 10 horse in here, Vino Rosso, for trainer Todd Fletcher. He's 4-1 on the morning line. This horse actually won the Gold Cup at Santa Anita at the 1.25 mile distance. So this horse actually has run at Santa Anita, has won at this track at this distance. So he's very well. We know he likes the track. He likes the distance. He's been training really well in the mornings. His last start at was the Jockey Club Gold Cup, in which he was actually disqualified from the wins for pretty controversial disqualification, if you ask me. But he actually ran really well in that race. It was a good prep for him. I think he could win this race if he gets the right trip. The horse who actually was placed first ahead of Vino Rosso in that disqualification is my second choice in here, Code of Honor, the 11 horse who, believe it or not, will start right next to him on the outside. Code of Honor won the Grade 1 Travers earlier at Saratoga in August. He's definitely he got off to a bit of a slow start in the earlier 2019, but when the calendar turned to June, he really turned on. He's won 3 races in a row, including the Travers, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. He's been training lights out coming into this race. The clock is standing here. I think he's doing well. So he'll be my second choice. And my third choice, I'm going to go with a bit of a long shot. I'm going to go with number 3, Owendale, another 3-year-old in here, who it just seems like another horse who, when the calendar turned to the second half of 2019, has gotten better. He's coming off of a runaway win in the Oklahoma Derby. That's a Grade 3 race. The 1.25 mile really hasn't been his biggest strength, but the way he's training, the way that the trainer's showing a bunch of confidence that he can get this distance, and they chose this race over the dirt mile, so I think that's a big confidence booster for him. So I'll go 10-11-3 in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Alrighty, so that's it for the Breeders'. What's the next big horse racing event after this? We don't have to wait until the Kentucky Derby, do we?
Oh, no. There's plenty of stuff before that. But so after this, there's a Thanksgiving weekend. There's a bunch of Grade 1 races around the country. At Aqueduct, there's Cigar Mile, where it's projected that Maximum Security, who was controversially disqualified from the Kentucky Derby, he actually just came back and won the Grade 3 Bold Ruler last weekend. And he's projected to make his next start in the Cigar Mile over at Aqueduct around Thanksgiving weekend. So there's a bunch of Grade 1 races over at Aqueduct. Churchill, Del Mar Racetrack in California has a big weekend coming up around Thanksgiving time, and supposedly the week after. So definitely plenty of action to go around. Obviously, there's the Pegasus World Cup in early January. Sick big $12 million purse, so a bunch of horses should be in there. Won't be surprised if we see a couple horses from the Breeders' Cup Classic stay behind and run in that race as well. So definitely plenty of action to go around.
Alrighty, so maybe we'll get you on sometime in November. We'll talk about, I guess, the baseball off-season will be underway. Maybe we have a couple trades and whatnot. NBA will be underway. We'll be about maybe 12, 13 weeks into the NFL season at some point, and any other storylines that pop up in the world of sports. And it was a pleasure to have you on today, Jeff.
Always a pleasure, Madison. Thank you.
All right.